And
Yeah.
speaking of superpowers, Larry Ellison also made an interesting announcement around data centers and talking about building a nuclear-powered data center. And when asked whether he was serious about it, he said, "Oh yeah, totally serious about it."
Yeah, I think the one thing that many of us who have been in tech for 20 plus years have come to expect from Larry is big ideas that sound absolutely ridiculous when they're
Hmm.
first said, that become very normal, a few years or 10 years later.
Hmm.
It's interesting. I think, for me, it goes back to some of the sci-fi stories that I used to read as a youngster, where, we had shrunk down the size of nuclear reactors to, wristwatch size or battery
Yeah.
size. And this was a promise 40, 50 years ago in sci-fi that we never realized, because we went through a period where we became very fearful, especially in the US, around nuclear power after, some rightfully so, after some very close accidents and what we've seen at Fukushima and elsewhere. There's
Right.
this fear of the unknown risk that nuclear power poses. But I absolutely think, small scale nuclear reactors as a clean data source for things that are very, very power hungry, like data centers, especially is in the AI era of computing, where these data centers in many cases are consuming unbelievable amounts of power. And I think there was an article that came out very recently last week that said most data centers are very likely underreporting their carbon footprint and their power consumption by upwards of 600%. So
Hmm.
I think, as a leader, Larry is recognizing a challenge that as we continue to build data centers that are more and more dense and have more and more compute, we're going to continue to consume more and more power. And we need to find better ways, more sustainable ways of powering this computing power that we're continually increasing more and more and more.
Yeah,
So,
one of the things I wonder is just where Larry Ellison is going to build this thing. Obviously, it is hard to do nuclear in the United States, whereas honestly, when I think nuclear power, the first place I think is France, where they
mhm.
actually have a fair amount of nuclear power already. So I wonder if this means he's investing in the EU. Um, I'll just say that politically, Larry Ellison isn't necessarily well known for call it the more socialist policies that France has. But hey,
Yeah.
business makes for strange bedfellows sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure at this point, like Larry owns, several islands in the South Pacific and other places where he could test this theory. But I think, I mean, this follows on news in the science world, for years that they're trying to get to these compact room-sized nuclear reactors
Yeah.
uh, for these very reasons. So I think, well, it sounds audacious in scope. I do think that we're very close to seeing that kind of technology. So it'll be interesting to see if Larry could be the first to start powering data centers with compact nuclear reactors, and where that
Yeah.
goes and what it means for the industry.
Yeah, and we've talked previously on this podcast about the idea of thirsty AI. That every single prompt or query ends up being basically a glass of water.
Yes.
Maybe a few ounces of water, but and how are we going to deal with that? Like both the power and water issues associated with AI are going to be pretty immense, and probably will lead
Absolutely.
to IT managers actually having to look at the utilities associated with the services that they are procuring.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised to see it as an ESG line item on 10Ks at some point, right? What is your data center footprint? What is your power consumption footprint? How are you offsetting the carbon? How are you, ensuring that your power sources are sustainable? And so I think we'll see a lot of focus on this as AI becomes more and more mainstream.